Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel and this amazing Express API JWT series. In this video, we will see the basic structure of our project, what we are making, and we will see how we can create database and connect our database through our Express API. So without any further ado, let's begin. Okay, so we will make a very simple API that would be for project management. So we'll have a users table, we will have a teams table, and we will have a projects table. Very basic. Then we will have a relationship defined between these tables because we are using SQL database. We will have a relational database in this case, and we just need to define certain relationships. So in this case, well, you don't have to define relationships mandatorily, but it's the main purpose of using relational database is you have a relationship between those tables. So here, like that's one of the main purpose, by the way. So here we have users table, there's a teams table, and there's a projects table. So in this case, I'm defining a relationship where one user has a team associated with it, or I could say one team has many users associated with it. So it's going to be when I talk about teams to users is one teams to has many users, so it's one to many. Then here I have teams and projects. There's a relationship as well. So here I'm going to say one team has many projects. So again, you can have this relationship in a different way. You might have many teams has many projects, or many users have many teams. So it depends upon how you define the relationship over here, but we'll keep it very simple. We'll just keep it one to many for now, because our main focus is getting the database phase and having the JWT token. That's our main focus. So now we have all this. Let's try to get into this by creating the models. So what I'm going to do is, as Express provides us flexibility to define our project structure, here I'm going to create a folder as models. And here we will have our Sequelize model. So we'll be using Sequelize, which is a very great popular SQL-based library for Node.js. Now, when you use this Sequelize, you need to make sure that you also install the associated SQL, you could say language or engine package for this. So in this case, if we are using SQLite 3, then you need to use, SQLite, then you need to add the package SQLite 3. For MySQL, you need to add to MySQL 2. Just make sure in Node there are two packages, MySQL and MySQL 2. Somehow, for some reason, MySQL 2 works with Sequelize, not the MySQL one. So what we are going to do is we'll just copy this from here like this, and then we will paste it over. Okay, let's stop our server. Let's paste it over here, MySQL 2. And we will also need, yeah, for now, let's have these two only. In the meantime, I'll tell you what I have done with MySQL Workbench. So MySQL Workbench is a software where you can, it's for Windows as well as for Mac, where you can manage your SQL-based database or MySQL-based databases. So here I have created a project Express database. Now here all our tables will come in once we create those schemas for that. Now, once this is done, let's start our node mon again. Oh, no, npm run serve, start. Perfect. Now, let's go to the documentation and see how it works. So first, you need to initialize your database thing, like configuration most probably. So you need to initialize the Sequelize object with your database configuration. Then you use that Sequelize object to define your models. And once you define your models, as soon as you start a server, making sure that you have done configurations correctly and added something, which I'll tell you, as soon as you start your server, all the tables that your model define goes to your database, or they will be created in your database. Now let's first understand before that, what is this model? Like, I'm using this term a lot. So if you are new to this ORM kind of thing, so object relational mapping or models, it stands for this user model. In this case, it's mapping to the users table in our database. So in this case, they have given the table name as user. So whenever we want to do some SQL based queries on our table, we use this user model. So we don't need to write the raw queries like select star from users. We can say user dot find all, something like this, and we will get all the users, which is similar to select star dot user, select star from users. Now, the good thing here is it takes off the heavy lifting from us. And also when it comes to parameterizing queries and all those things, as far as I'm aware of, generally when you use libraries like Sequelize or something, they take care of this parameterized queries. If not, let me know in the comment section, like if anyone has different opinion on this. But as far as my knowledge goes, like they generally take care of it. Then once we have those all written, so all that heavy lifting is done for us, we can like create or make our job easy in terms of database queries. Now, let's begin by initializing our models. So in this case, we have 3 tables. So definitely we will need 3 models. So first, I'm going to create here a file, which I'm going to call user.js, which will refer to my user model. I'm also going to create another file here, which will be project.js, which will be our project model, and one for team. Here it will be team.js. Now, let's start with the users. So here, what we need to do, if I go back over here, it is asking to get the Sequelize with the configurations we are going to do. So let's create another file. We can create it anywhere. Here, I'm going to create outside. I'm going to call it dbconfig.js. And let's define our database configurations or Sequelize, so that Sequelize knows for our database and password and can connect with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm Sequelize. Okay, let's do this. I guess it will do the auto import if we do it correctly. So here I'm going to say const our Sequelize object, Sequelize equal to, now here we need to create a connection as it has said over here. So you can just copy this from here, but we have to do things differently. I'll tell you what we need to do differently. So first let's import this. So here I can just use auto imports. So it will come from the Sequelize package. Now here, as we are using MySQL 2, what we need to do is we need to give the database name first. So it's going to be, in my case, it's Project Express. That's the database name. So Project Express, that's an odd name, but yeah. And then we need to give the host name. That would be, so sorry, not the host name, the username for my database. So in this case, it's root. And the password to the database, in this case, it is, next thing we have is, so username, password, and then we need to give the other configurations, which refers to the dialect of the database. So that will be MySQL and the host name. That would be localhost for now. But if you take this to cloud, then you need to put the host URL over here, whatever URL that you get once you create a host database instance, sorry, remote database instance. Now, this configuration, we can use it to create models and also make queries when we want to use it. So what next thing we need to do is we need to export it, because we will be using this Sequelize object. So here I'm going to say exports dot. Now I can make a named export. I can make like a default export. Let's make a named export. So Sequelize, what's happening? Sorry. So Sequelize will be this Sequelize, this one over here. So I'm making a named export. This is a common JS format to make named export. Now, generally I like to have the database initialization, that is connection configuration, in one JavaScript file. This might differ, like you might have a different opinion on this. Feel free to structure it according to your comfort zone, or how you feel it comfortable, or how your project asks for. But here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write another function which will create that connection with our database. So here I'm going to say init. So that will be the function name. You can call it anything. It's just a function name. So what we need to do here is we need to say Sequelize. So from that Sequelize object that we have created it here, we want to sync. So this means we want to run the sync function, which means connect to the database. And this is going to be an asynchronous function. So we will get a response. If the response is right, we should see that database connection successful. But if there is any error, we could catch those error here. And that would be console.log errors, and we can just print the errors whatever they are. So as soon as we run this function in our index.js, the connection will be made and we can migrate the database tables. Now we are not done here, because we have given the configurations and everything. That's great. We are asking for the connection to be made, but the thing is, we haven't really written our models and have brought in over here, because Sequelize needs to know what needs to be taken out and what's not to be. So here what I'm going to do is I'll write exports, again this init function, because we want this to be used in our index.js. So on, I'll just keep it till here. Let's bring this over here, and now let's focus on our model, our const user model. It's going to be the Sequelize that comes from the package. We will define, or is it define or is it init? Let's see. Sorry. We need to use our Sequelize for this. Sequelize, this will be our Sequelize that we just defined or that we created in dbconfig. Let's import that. There we go. And we will say define. And then here we need to give the configurations for our table. So for now, I'll just copy this from here and change it from here. Now here we also need to import the data types that will come from Sequelize package. And what we need to do here is, here I'm going to say my table is going to have a username column, or I could say the name column. Let's make it as a first name actually. First name column, it's going to be a string. It will have a last name column, which is going to be a string again. It will have the email column. Then we have here, we need to provide the, now that's the thing. We don't provide foreign key over here, even though we have it over here that one user is associated with a team or one team has many users. What we are going to do is we will provide the, when we provide the relationship, then we will give the foreign key. But for now, we will have these many things, and also we will have an auto incremented ID. Now here we can pass an object in the ID for here, and here we could say whether we want this to be null, whether we want this to be primary key, and so on. So this is going to be primary key, so I'm going to say true. Is this going to be auto increment? I'm going to say it's true, and that's it. If we want to keep any of these fields as nullable, we can just need to put them in the same format, and we just need to, oh, we also forgot the data type. Data type dot, now this is going to be integer because it's auto increment, so I'll just keep it like this, comma over here. Perfect. So we have these basic things defined for our ID. We can also do it for first name if we want, but it's not necessary because we all want this to be non-nullable and of type string. Perfect. Now, are we done over here? Of course not. We need to export this model. So we are going to say export.user equal to user. I'm doing named exports. You can also do default exports, doesn't matter. Now, same thing, we need to do it for teams. Then we can bring in the relationship for users. So what I'm going to do is I'll just copy paste this part from here, quickly define the teams table to save some time and get back to the relationship straight away. Okay, so I have defined the teams table, which will have just an ID column, name, and the department. Now here I'm calling it teams. Actually here I should call it users just to keep it consistent. I have also done the same thing for projects, like I've just created an ID column and a name column. And now we can remove this Sequelize because we don't need it here. We also can remove it from here. We are not needing it to here as well. And here also we can remove it. Okay, perfect. Now, defining the relationship. So if I go to dbconfig.js, here we first need to bring in those models because again, Sequelize needs to know what models to import, export, migrate, not import, export, migrate. And here we can define the relationship in this file. So here I'm saying each team has many projects associated with it, and each team has many users associated with it. Now, here, if you notice, I'm not giving any foreign key. So if I don't give any foreign key, it will just create a foreign key on user table with column something like this, user ID, with this name. But if I want to have my default foreign key, I can just pass an object over here. I could say foreign key, and that would be, let's say, user ID, something like this. I guess it needs to be string. So yeah, that's great. And we can also have the constraint on delete, cascade, or restrict. So if you want to give any foreign key restrictions, you can give it over here like this. And you can also make this foreign key as an object. So you could say something like this. So it would be something like name, that would be user underscore ID. And of course, when we create a team or whenever we create a user, actually, we cannot just directly assign them to the team. We can just create them as it is. So we can keep this allow null to be true. Perfect. Now we can have the same thing for project. So whenever we create a project, we don't have to straight away associate with the team. So we can do the same constraints over there. We can take this from here, and there we will just keep the default key, whatever Sequelize creates for us. So I'll just keep it like this, and oh, it needs to be an object, So it should be inside an object like this. So that's great. Now let's try to run our node-mon server. So npm run start and see what happens. And there we go. We are getting an error saying sequelize.define. And here it says cannot read properties of undefined reading define from Sequelize. It was a very silly error from my side. So we just need to rearrange this. We just need to put the exports at the top and then the relationships and everything here, because what's happening was we were using, so like saying from user, we want to require models user, and then it was going over here at the top, and then it was going to Sequelize, and then again it was going to user. So it was kind of like was in a deadlock when we just keep it like this. So it was in a deadlock before. So what we need to do is take all this from here and put it at the bottom, and that should be fine. So if we go over here, you will see that we say that's like it says over here that certain queries are executed. And if we refresh our database over here, let's refresh all, and there we go, we have our project table. That's perfect. And you'll see it has added the team ID at the end. So same for the teams over, that's great. Let's see for the users, and it has added the user ID at the end. But we forgot the password field over here, so let's try to add that. So if we go to users and then password, and then we say data types dot string. And now if we go back over here, you will see that if we refresh this, so refresh all, that password field is not added. So inside this db config, we can say for syncing here, we could give object, we could say force, and that should be true. Now if we go back over here, you will see that everything works great. Now if we try to refresh this, and now if we query this, you will see that password field is added. So whenever we make changes to our migration, it will appear over there. So let's try and see if we add a simple, let's say some text over here, just to see that it doesn't overwrite on every, let's say, oh, it's user ID. Actually, oh, it shouldn't be user ID, it should be teams ID. My bad, I gave here, should be team ID, because it has many, sorry for that. Now if we go back over here, let's add this. So we need a team for this, so you can keep this null. Let's say apply, and there we go. It has some problems, 10 some random date, and let's give it a try. There we go. So we have this table over here. Now if we try to refresh this, let's see what happens. Okay, everything worked. Now if we try this, you'll see it recreated everything. So we just need to make sure that this force, if I go back over here, if we try to do like a force sync, then it will recreate all the tables again, and it will drop the table and create it again. So make sure that if you don't need it, just remove it. As long as you are working on a dev server, that's fine. But if on a production server, this could be very dangerous. You might end up erasing all your database. So before you make any, like on your dev server, before you like start, you can use that force to, because as you saw, like in the users field, we forgot the password column, so we added that. So that's fine, because we don't have any data in that. But if we had the data, then we have to do or take a different approach where we have to like add it either manually or. So alternatively, what we could do, we could pass the alter column. So let's go back over here. Let's add some other entry, something like this. Let's try here, here, here. Let's try some entry here. And let's see what happens when we apply this. Okay, that's great. So we have our data recorded consistently. Now what we will do is we will just go back to our code and put the alter to be true. So let's see what happens. Alter and then true. Now if we go back, oops, not over here in our database, and try to refresh this, you will see our database is like having every table, everything over here properly. So if we just refresh it again, so it has it everything there. But if we try to do something else here, let's say we add a new column here, let's say we add it in project, or let's add it in user actually, because we have data in user. Let's say we want to add contact, and that's going to be of date type will be data types dot, let's say string, that's a phone number actually. Let's allow null to be true. And now if we save this and go back over here, And now if we refresh this, you will see it didn't actually deleted our data, but it just added an extra column. So we can have that alter set to be true if we are working on production server. So in this case, if you are in that, even the dev server, when you have lots of data, if you don't want to lose your data, instead of force, you can use alter. So that's all in this video. In the next video, we'll try to create endpoints for our API. So see you in the next video. Till the next time, goodbye.